Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host, and for this one I'm going to run through all of the action from the latest round of fixtures in the Allianz Hurling League of 2023. Before I run through the 6 games from Division 1, please like, subscribe, share and comment, all that good stuff, and let's crack into these games. So the first one we're going to look at here is Tipperary 4-23, Waterford 25 points. First blood to Liam Cahill in his rivalry with Waterford, of course. He managed Waterford for the last few years, did exceptionally well with them, of course, won the league title with them last year and had them looking like All-Ireland contenders. But following last year's championship disaster, really, for Waterford, I think it's fair to say, Cahill jumped ship to his native Tipperary, something which he said he wouldn't do, and thus the rivalry is now there between Waterford and Tipperary. Jake Morris hit a hat-trick in this game as Tipperary secured the top spot in the group. They are now into the final four of the league campaign. In the final 15 minutes, this is where Tipperary pulled away. Jake Morris completed his hat-trick in that period as Waterford were outscored by Tip by 3-8 to 6 points. Jamie Barron was also sent off in this period. I think one of the key things we have to say here, Austin Gleeson had been fantastic for Waterford coming off the bench. This time he started and Dan McCormack did a superb job on him. Not only did McCormack do a superb job on Gleeson, he also set up Jake Morris for Tipperary's first goal of the game. That was in the 8th minute to make it 1-1 to 4 points. Calum Lyons then hit 2 points in a row for Waterford, but then they failed to score from the 14th minute to the 34th minute. And Tipperary hit 8 points in a row in this period, with Gerard O'Connor leading the way. Waterford did hit a little burst before in the second half. 113 to 17 points they led by, but then Tipperary took over. And in the 55th minute to the 58th minute, Tipperary hit 2 goals and Jamie Barron was sent off. Jake Morris hit the first of those 2 goals and Conor Bowe hit the second. Patrick Fitzgerald came in for Waterford, definitely an absolute star, not only for the future, but for right now. He came in and impressed, but Jake Morris's third goal, completing his hat-trick after a brilliant pass by John McGrath, that proved to be the killer blow for Waterford. I think another huge plus for Tipperary is how much their defence has improved. Michael Breen at fullback, and then on top of that, Johnny Ryan, both look to be fantastic finds in that full-back line. And for Johnny Ryan as well, when you consider that, Cathal Barrett's injury, it's massive that, Tipperary find a good replacement and Ryan looks like that man. For Waterford, honestly, the Davy Fitz second coming, so far, I'm not really too impressed. I know that obviously it's the league and championship is where it's going to matter. Like Waterford looked untouchable in the league, and then in the championship they looked very beatable. So yeah, it's and that's putting it nicely. So this time for Waterford, they are looking a bit susceptible in the league. Like Dublin, we should have beaten them in the first game out, and that was in Field. They've beaten who they should be beating, really, apart from Dublin, and then they've lost to the big teams. So I think for them, I'm not sure that Davy will be happy with how the league has gone so far, because look, a lot of people will say, "Oh, like it's a league, and look at what happened last year when Waterford won it. Like, does anybody really want to win this league?" No, Davy gets a bounce when he comes in. Every time he's taken over a team, you think of Waterford in 2008, his first year with them, they reached the All-Ireland final for the first time in so long. Then he takes Clare and immediately a bounce and they win the All-Ireland in 2013. Then he takes Wexford, an immediate bounce, and they win the Leinster title in 2019 and come so close to making the All-Ireland final in that year, and they could have gone on to win it that year even. Like, he gets a bounce out of every team that he goes to, and now he's gone to Waterford, and we haven't seen that bounce yet. I know it's so early, it's only 4 games in, but I don't think he'll be happy with where they're at right now. Personally, I think that he would have wanted to see a little bit more from them at this stage. But look, for Tipperary, I don't think Cahill could be happier. 100% record. They've looked fantastic, particularly against the big teams, particularly against Kilkenny. I thought they looked awesome. And then in this game against Waterford, definitely first blood. The championship clash between these two is going to be seriously entertaining. Moving on to what I think is the most consequential game of the weekend. It's this one. Antrim, 3 goals and 18 points. Laois, 1 goal and 18 points. The most consequential result of the weekend, in my opinion, because now that means that Antrim are safe and Laois, in my opinion, are gone. They're gone down, and Antrim secure another year of Division 1 hurling. Conal Cunning led the way for them with a goal and 10, and the other goals came from Neil McManus and Nigel Elliott. For Laois, Stephen Maher hit 7 points, Aaron Dunphy hit 1-4, but it wasn't enough as Willie Maher's side fell to a defeat. Dublin are next for Laois in Parnell Park. It's not looking good for them. They probably won't win that game because Dublin under Micheál Donoghue have really set a trend that they beat who we should beat and lose to who we should lose to. And for Laois, we should be beating Laois. We've been beating them over the last few years. So it's not looking good. For Antrim, another massive result under Darren Gleeson, and definitely, maintaining their presence in Division 1 is only going to bring Antrim hurling forward. And when you look at the strides made by Dunloy in the All-Ireland Club Championship this year, putting it up to Ballyhale Shamrocks, probably one of the best club hurling teams you've ever seen. It is absolutely undeniable that there's been huge strides made in Antrim hurling. And Conal Cunning with a goal and 10. Again, a fantastic performance there. And going into the championship, they've got the likes of Kieran Clark, Neil McManus is still doing his business there. Nigel Elliott, Ryan Elliott in goal, Paddy Burke, and then Keelan Malloy is as good as they come. So for Antrim, they're looking strong going into 2023, and they'll be happy with how their league campaign has gone so far, but they would love a scalp, and I think that's what Gleeson should aim for next year. Start to turn their attention away from the likes of Laois and Westmeath and look up and start looking at your likes of Dublin, start looking at your likes of Wexford and seeing can they take a scalp off one of those teams. And speaking of Dublin, we fell to Kilkenny again. Kilkenny 225, Dublin a goal and 17 points. A dominant performance by Kilkenny. Dublin were taught a lesson in this game. 2 second half goals from Owen Cody put the icing on the cake, but the game was finished as far as I was concerned at halftime. Dublin went in at halftime 17 points to 8 behind. Billy Drennan shot the lights out in the first half. He is an absolute star already, and already he looks like he's one of Kilkenny's main men. Not even that he's a new kid on the block. Pádraig Walsh and Paddy Deegan, I thought, were hugely impressive. They hit 2 boomers each in the first half. And Kilkenny just had the game put to bed in the first half. In the second half, when the game was pretty much over, Dublin hit a little burst. Paul Crummy pinched a goal. And Donald Burke is just a fantastic hurler. He's just brilliant. He's absolutely magnificent. And he consistently brings it for Dublin time and time again. But we need more people to step up. And I have to say that, the first game against Waterford, seeing how good Keane O'Sullivan looked in the full forward line, I was really hoping that he could be that guy. And I hope that he continues to, give that support. But in this game, it really was Donald Burke carrying this Dublin team again. And we need to rectify that going into championship. But we need more threats from other areas of the field because for teams, it is very much stop Donald Burke, you stop Dublin. And that's pretty much what I'm kind of looking at here and saying, look, we need to rectify this problem in our game right now because Burke is one of the best in the country right now. He just needs a supporting cast. For Kilkenny, a great result under Derek Ling. He definitely looks like he's putting his mould on this team. The fact that the likes of Billy Drennan are coming in and shooting the lights out means that, we're entering a new era with this Kilkenny side. Owen Cody now is no longer the new kid on the block. He's an established star of this team. And again, Richie Reid, fantastic. It's going to be interesting to see what half-back line he goes with because you've got there the likes of David Blanchfield, Pádraig Walsh, Paddy Deegan. It's going to be really interesting to see who he actually goes for because then in other league games, Killian Buckley's look fantastic. You still have the likes of Pádraig Walsh. You still have the likes, even a dark horse like a Niall Brazel, Darragh Corcoran, Evan Shefflin. They've got so much talent in the half-back line, Kilkenny, so it'll be interesting to see what 3 they go with, especially now that there's a spot up for grabs from last year's team with the fact that Michael Carey will not be there. Moving on to the next game, then Galway bounce back under Henry Shefflin. They go down to Clare and beat them by 124 to 22 points. A commanding second half performance by the tribesmen led to victory against their neighbours. But it did not look good at the start. As at 14 minutes in, Clare were 8 points to 1 ahead. They absolutely flew out of the traps, but Galway fought back in the first half to make it a 1-point game on halftime, and then they moved into the lead in the second half. In the 58th minute, Conor Whelan hit the back of the net for Galway in what proved to be probably the most crucial score of the game. Clare responded with 4 points in a row, but the hope of a comeback was quickly shot down by scores from Tom Monaghan and Conor Cooney. And I have to say, For Galway under Henry Shefflin, pretty much every league game they've played so far has been a completely different team. So for them, I think it's probably the most interesting team in the championship in terms of what starting lineup will Galway throw out, because their team has been completely different every game they played, and they've had pretty much a new star every time. You've got Kevin Cooney, you've got Martin McManus, then they bring back in the likes of Conor Whelan. He didn't start, against Limerick. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see who they actually go with. Will Evan Nyland be on the freeze? Will Conor Cooney be on the freeze? Like, there's a lot of different variables with this Galway side. When you consider the fact that last year they were so close to beating Limerick until obviously they, the bench came in and the likes of David Reedy made the difference. Now Galway's bench looks way stronger, and I think Shefflin will be absolutely delighted with how this league campaign has gone. For Clare, they'll definitely be disappointed that they didn't win the game, considering that at one stage they were 7 points up. I know that was only 14 minutes in, and 7 points is not a big lead in the game of hurling, but no, they will be kind of disappointed that they didn't take the result here. But again, I don't think Clare care too much about the league. They've already flexed how much they can score. The beating that they put on Wexford last week, they've already shown the attacking prowess that they have. And to be able to rack up 8 points in 14 minutes shows it again. But they just switched off for the rest of the game and let Galway get the crucial scores at the crucial times. I think a matchup between these two in championship would be absolutely fascinating, though. Moving to the next game then. Cork 214, Wexford 18 points. This is a big missed opportunity, in my opinion, for Wexford. I thought going into the last 10 minutes that Wexford were going to push on and win, but Cork staged a late comeback. They only led once in the entire game, but that was in the 72nd minute. Cormac Bosang with Cork's second goal, and they have now clinched a spot in the league semi-finals. Wexford burst out of the traps. Lee Chin and Matthew O'Hanlon were both back in the side. Both of them were fantastic. In particular, Lee Chin was magnificent. He hit the first 2 points. Simon Donoghue, Mikey Dwyer, Conor MacDonald all tagged on more as Wexford burst 6 points to 0 ahead. They pushed on to lead 10-6 at the break, but in the 45th minute, Cork got a massive score. A bit of genius from Pádraig Power. He poked the ball into the back of the net, a high ball that was dropped in on him, and he just flicked it with the hurl into the back of the Wexford net to make it 1-7 to 13 points. Then Seamus Hannity came in, and his experience was crucial. He set up 3 points after the Cork goal for Kingston and for Barrett, and Chin led the way brilliantly the other end for Wexford, constantly coming up with clutch scores. However, Cork staged their late rally. Jack O'Connor equalised for them, and Cormac Bosang sent Cork ahead in the 72nd minute, and they held on to win the game by 2 points. Look, for Cork, they'll be delighted that they got the victory. However, Wexford did prove that they were superior at stages of the game, but then obviously Cork just hung in there and got the victory. For Wexford, it's relatively worrying in a sense that Cork were way further off their full strength, I think, than Wexford were. Wexford had Lee Chin there, they had Matthew O'Hanlon there, they had Diarmuid O'Keefe, they had Conor MacDonald. They didn't really have too many, apart from maybe Rory O'Connor starting, but he came in. He came off the bench. They didn't really have too many lads to come back in the same way that Cork have a lot of lads to come back. And now, obviously, a potential injury to Matthew O'Hanlon. Like, for Wexford, I'd be nervous going into championship. I'm not as confident about them this year as I have been over the last few years. I think that maybe this era with this Wexford team, not that it's over. It's not over, but I do think their peak was 2019. I do think with this team that their best chance of winning in All-Ireland was 2019, and since then I haven't felt as confident in them. And the likes of Lee Chin would walk into any team in the country. He's genuinely one of the best to do it. But it's going to be interesting to see how Dara Egan manages to get the maximum out of them this year, because they're particularly the Clare defeat. They just looked abject in that game, and they looked like they were so reliant on getting the likes of Lee Chin, Matthew O'Hanlon back into the side, and they have improved, drastically since getting them back into the team. But again, it wasn't enough to get the victory, and that's something that will definitely concern Dara Egan going forward. For Cork, league semi-final secured. Pat Ryan will be absolutely delighted. It's gone, pretty much exactly how he would have wanted it to go. They've got big wins in the league, particularly the one over the Limerick was fantastic. And now heading into the Final Four, they have a big enough squad that they can go for it without screwing themselves over for the first round of Munster, in my opinion. So, yeah, why not go for it? Pick up a league title. They haven't won one in so long, so I think it's something like 20 years since Cork have won the league title. So why not go for it? Like, I mean, it's been long enough, and for a successful county like Cork, they would absolutely love a bit of silverware. The final game then in Division 1 that we're going to look at features the All-Ireland champions Limerick going away to Mullingar Westmeath and winning. The final score, Westmeath 115, Limerick 127. And crucially for the All-Ireland champions, Aaron Gillan was back in the squad, and he came on and scored a point to put to bed really the rumours that he's not involved in the Limerick panel this season. And his return genuinely could decide in All-Ireland. He's that good. He is absolutely Limerick's goal threat. And he's the one that, always comes up in clutch moments for them. I know they have the likes of Grode, Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, but Aaron Gillan is genuinely one of the best corner forwards, best full forwards I've seen in the game. He's so good, and he consistently delivers for Limerick in the big games. In this game, they got a 12-point win in Mullingar, but the game was over at half-time. Westmeath did way better in the second half. Tom Morrissey hit 9 points, Donegal Dálaigh hit 5, Peter Casey hit 3, and Limerick's goal came in the first half from Conor Boylan. At half-time, Limerick led by 114 to 5 points. I mean, that sums it up. The game was over at half-time. Westmeath were better in the second half. Niall O'Brien led the way for them throughout the entire game. He finished with 1-6. His goal came in the second half as Westmeath hit 110 in that second half. So, put up a bit of a fight to Limerick, but realistically, they were never going to win. And for Fortune's men, they just need to, march on and hope that they can stay up in that relegation playoff against Laois, which I think they're well capable of doing. And when you consider, some of the results that they had last year, they absolutely annihilated Laois last year. So they should be pretty confident that they can get the job done. And when you consider that they've drawn against the likes of Wexford, there's clear improvements there being made in the county of Westmeath with regards to the hurling. For Limerick, All-Ireland champions, they will be pretty happy. A league semi-final is still there for them potentially. They can still pull that back. So they will be delighted with how it is. And obviously Kyle Hayes now has served his suspension, and he should be back in the side for the next game as well. So everything looking up for the All-Ireland champions. That is my full recap here, guys, of the hurling here on Play on GAA.
Just before the video ends, we here at Play on GAA want to pay our respects to the late Liam Kearns, who has passed away after a sudden illness. A great GAA man, Kearns represented Kerry at all levels and won a minor All-Ireland title with his county in 1980. Following his career, Kearns managed Laois, Limerick and had a magical run as Tipperary manager, which included an epic run to the All-Ireland semi-final in 2016. Kearns most recently managed Offaly before his tragic passing. We would like to pass on our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Liam Kearns, and indeed anyone who has been affected by this tragic news. Rest in peace, Liam. Ar yesh deg raibh anam.